The Mourning Star. Part 1. You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him discover it within himself. An Old Fated Fortune Cookie. Chapter 1. Humble Beginnings. Maya woke up and looked out the window of the small guest house in the suburbs of Tokyo. She couldn't shake the jet lag, that strange feeling of being out of place and time in the universe. Leaving New York at 1 a.m. on a Saturday afternoon, flying 14 hours in a cramped airplane seat, only to arrive in Tokyo at 3 p.m. on the same day. Where did that lost time disappear to? Is it like when you wake up in the night at 1:52 a.m., have an incredibly vivid dream that seems to last for hours, only to glance at the clock again, and it is 1:53? She finally finished the last book in a novel series she'd been meaning to read, close to 800 pages, as the big jumbo jet had soared from Logan Airport in Boston to Tokyo, going over Canada and Alaska along the way, and in her muscles she felt every moment, but in her head it felt like it should be 3 a.m. She'd had the strangest dreams lately, and they were all about her brother back home in the States. James. He was searching for her, calling out her name, but she always woke up just before she could hear what he was saying. Was it time to be? Be what? The dreams never made any sense, but still they haunted her thoughts in a deep way she just couldn't put her finger on. She wiped the facial cleanser off her face and closed her eyes, took a deep breath and held it in for a few seconds. She had priorities. There was the Japanese to study if she was ever going to understand the polite old married couple whose only daughter was off to college. She somehow felt that they had only signed up to be host parents as a way to deal with the empty nest syndrome they were probably feeling, something new to get excited about, a happy distraction. Very Japanese. Kumiko and Sohachiro-san, as they introduced themselves when they picked her up at Narita Airport, seemed genuinely nice, not even a whiff of the usual cold, sarcastic kindness most people back home call being a good person. Their warmth and kindness felt so genuine, even while they had shared the uncomfortable silence of a long drive with people who could barely communicate as the megapolis of modern Tokyo rose up from the fields of rice along the highway. They can't possibly be this nice all the time, she thought as she brushed the tangles out of her sandy brown hair. She'd been planning this trip for years. Everyone back home either thought she'd lost her mind or that it was simply some phase to be gone through and forgotten. And now she was here, standing barefoot on the woven rice stock flooring they called tatami. It had a smell that was like no other, and she felt calm just breathing it in and wiggling her toes between the weaves. The moment of inner peace was broken by her iPhone exploding with the sounds of BTS on the bed next to her subway map of central Tokyo and the outer prefectures. She looked down at the name flashing on the phone screen and smiled. "Hi Mom," she said, plopping down on the old wooden chair next to the Western-style bed the host family had gotten her. She heard that married couples often slept on their own separate futon beds on the floor without a frame, which to many married Western couples would seem strange. "Hey there. So was the flight as bad as you were expecting?" her mother asked with both excitement and concern. She'd never been outside the United States, unless you counted a trip over the Canadian border at Niagara Falls international travel, that is. Maya thought about the leg cramps she still felt from the long flight. Her mind was tired, and if she was honest with herself, she was nervous. "It wasn't so bad," she replied, trying to sound as blasé about it as possible. "How's my baby brother taking my absence?" she asked, knowing he was still in the stage where he was just happy to have her out of his hair. "He's quiet, moody, and stays in his room all day with his computer," her mother replied, wondering if there was ever a 15-year-old boy who wasn't moody and distant. Maya smiled, knowing James was simply obsessed with the math of cryptography and algorithmic deep learning. She tried to follow his scattered way of describing networks designed to self-learn and become self-aware. Then again, she thought to herself, Alexa had been awfully friendly recently, and she laughed inside thinking of a joke Alexa had told her before she had left for Japan. "Mom, he's 15 and has the house to himself, do the math," and they chatted for a few more minutes until Maya realized it was getting close to 10 p.m. back in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and she still wasn't ready to try out the famous Tokyo Metropolitan subway system as she glanced down at the map sitting on the bed next to her. "Good night, Mom," she said as she hung up the phone and picked up the crumpled paper map. Think I'll start with the blue one, she thought to herself. She always loved blue. Her homestay parents lived near Kichijoji Station, which was famous according to TripAdvisor for its bohemian-style gardens and park filled with artists and musicians. Nearby was the Ghibli Museum filled with the magic of Hideo Miyazaki, a place she'd been dreaming of seeing for years and years. But first she wanted to see the beating heart of fashion and style, and she studied the map, scanning through the tangle of multicolored lines before she found what she was looking for, Harajuku. The blue line was the Inokashira line, her fingers running a line along the map, and she'd need to switch trains once in Shibuya for the Yamanon line, which looked like a big, green circle running around the edges of the city. After 2 more stops, there she would be. Seems simple enough, she thought. The wind was brisk, making her shiver as she walked down the sidewalk towards the station. It had a familiar feel, but she still felt like a stranger in a strange land when she glanced up at the Japanese road signs. Chinese characters, or kanji as they are called, had been the most challenging part so far of learning to read Japanese. Hiragana and katakana had been child's play in comparison. She doubted she would ever truly grasp their mysteries. The waves of people grew thicker as she got closer to the station, small groups of 3 and 4 merging again and again into the mouth of the station, where they disappeared beneath the arching gate of Kichijoji Station. She heard the deep rumble of a train approaching, took a deep breath and pressed on inside, blending in and fading into the crowd. The station was a symphony of controlled chaos, a mother with her 2 children trying to buy tickets from the machine, a newsstand with racks of newspapers and comics, a hurried salaryman with his briefcase rushing through the ticket stand, throngs of people moving in all directions. Maya spied a ticket machine near the gate and made her way up the steps, fumbling in her purse for a 500 yen coin. In the lower right hand of the screen was a black button labeled English, and after pressing it the screen was instantly transformed into written words she could understand. She pressed a few buttons, selecting a one-way ticket for 240 yen, grabbed the glossy ticket that the machine spit out and went through the ticket gate with a flash of green and a ding as the gate swung open. She followed the arrows directing her to the Inokashira line platform, double-checked the sign for Shibuya and made her way up the stairs to the train platform above, passing an older gentleman grasping the handrail as he slowly trundled his way up one slow step at a time. Standing on the platform, she looked up at the digital display and saw her train would arrive in exactly 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Japanese trains were incredibly punctual.